Okay, good morning from post-pandemic apocalyptic. I don't know what to say. Oh God, yes, the home of the zombie apocalypse right here in beautiful Riverton, Maryland, and hey, that would be a good a line of Halloween makeup there. We'll call it apocalyptic. There you go. I like that idea. Greetings from me. Long time no chat on these things. Haven't really had many chances and opportunities to get on board because of everything that's been going on. Of course, the lovely pandemic. As you can tell, this place is a mess. It's in disorganized disarray. And look at my hair. I haven't colored my hair since before the pandemic. And I mean, the gray is starting to come out. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I think to myself, oh my God, I've got Ferguson hair. And in case you don't know the reference, there's this great Australian series on Netflix called Wentworth. And if you've not seen Wentworth yet, it's definitely worth consideration. It is very addictive. To me, it's Orange is the New Black without the campiness. I guess that's really the best way I could describe it. Is something like that. Earthquake. No. The See, I haven't done this in a long time. So I've completely lost my touch. You got to point in the other direction. Chat. Use it. Chat is open. Use it. But yeah, I've been addicted to this series Wentworth on Netflix. We are currently in the fifth season right now, so no spoilers, please. Um, I vaguely remembered Prisoner Cell Block H from the 1970s, and and then when I saw the old scene of the big press coming down on somebody's hands, that's where I built the connection. Did a little more research, found out, yeah, it is there is a connection between Wentworth and the 1970s series Prisoner Cell Block H, which was also an Australian production. I do need to move this. There we go. There we go. That's a little better. More of my backroom junk getting into the background there, though, but still. At least if any chats come down. There, I did it again. At least if any chats come down. There we go. Somewhere. There. As you can tell, I'm not ready for prime time. Not ready for prime time at all. But we're out here to get a message out there. Again, if you have any questions on anything FCC related, feel free to dump them into the chat there. Open up the chat window. The chat window should be there on the right-hand side of the screen. Please be a part of that, and we want your questions regarding that, regarding anything. Of course, what we have coming up right now, I think the big items right now are NCE window. We've had a lot of development on that here in the past week or two. The application fees for FCC services with the Ray Bombs Act, that's also pretty big. On the political side, there's the whole brouhaha over Section 230 of the Communications Act, the Communications Decency Act, and the role of social media and how much leeway social media should have in curating news articles that are reposted on, that are posted through the services like Facebook and Twitter and such. So there's a lot of things that are going on right now. We also have the election coming up. We're not going to really talk about who to vote for. Obviously I do have opinions on what would happen, what could happen if one administration comes for, whatever administration we have next January. And I can tell you right now, regardless of who wins in November, there are going to be some substantial changes in the FCC leadership come January, even if the Republicans win. I don't see Ajit Pai lasting that much longer. The president has a big Section 230 agenda right now, and I mean he's already going to be dumping O'Reilly. I would not be surprised if he tries to get somebody too strongly in there to oppose 230 now. Keep in mind that Pai has been following the president's lead on 230. And Section 230, basically, in a nutshell, it gives protection. It gives certain protections and certain rules. There's certain. It's first of all, it's Section 230 of the Communications Act, and it gives a certain level of protections and immunities to electronic services that retransmit news items from other sources. It basically takes them out of the mix for liability. So if somebody wants to, so if an article comes from the New York Times, is reposted by Facebook, and somebody reads it, and there's a libelous statement in there, they're gonna, or they claim that there is one, they can't go after Facebook. They have to go after the source, and that's really, this goes back to the days of CompuServe and the old services like that. For those of us who used CompuServe many years ago, we could get everything through there, and really, CompuServe was more of a conduit than anything in those cases. So there's that. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, if we have a Democratic administration come in January, I think we're going to see some reforms on net neutrality and reversing the impacts of the Restoring Internet Freedom Order, and possibly work in the Congress and Senate based on what the makeup is of the House and Senate in respect to codifying network neutrality and making it law instead of regulation. So I have a feeling that's what's going to happen if we go in that direction. So again, REC can't take sides. REC can only analyze and tell you what would happen either way. All right, get me off of this thing. Get me without that REC meatball up there, and yeah, maybe we'll have a discussion. But for right now, as long as that meatball's up there, that's how we do things. All right. Let's talk about. I want to get this out of the way really quickly, and then we can move forward with the NCE stuff. And this has to do with the filing fees for FCC services. That's right now being considered in a rulemaking proceeding. Now, this was a part of the Ray Bombs Act that was passed in 2018. It was sweeping changes, sweeping communications law changes, mainly related to the repack of TV and the distribution of 600 megahertz to out of television broadcasting and into the wireless services, and then the whole issues with the the whole issues with the auctions and stuff like that. So a part of that was that the FCC, that the Congress has changed Section 158 of the Communications Act. Section 158 authorizes the FCC to collect fees for applications. Prior to Ray Bombs, those fees were based on a fixed chart that was in Section 158. So every single type of transaction had a line item. And so if they wanted to change that chart, add a service, it would require legislation, and it would have to go all the way to the president. Ray Bombs changed that. What Ray Bombs did for applications fees, a previous legislation did it for regulatory fees, which is the annual fees that certain types of radio services have to pay for basically just the privilege of being licensed and being regulated by the FCC. LPFM stations, non-commercial educational stations, do not pay regulatory fees. Commercial broadcast stations do pay regulatory fees. Commercial translators and boosters and such, they all pay these regulatory fees. So this brings us the issue that comes at hand. Well, first of all, the way that it works under the Ray Bombs is that they have to go to a chart that is they're going away from a chart and they're going to a cost-based method, which gives the FCC some flexibility in setting the rates. And the way that they do that is it's based on the costs that it costs them to process an application. So what they do is they look at the costs based on 2 employees. I think they said 2 employees, 1 supervisory employee, that it costs to actually process an application. And as long as the cost to process an application exceeds the costs involved with collecting the fee, then they can, then they can go ahead and charge that. And this has caused a lot of issues, a lot of concerns in the amateur radio service, because see, under the old pre-Ray Bombs Section 158 language, remember we mentioned the line item charts, there was never a line item or price point for amateur radio. That did not exist. And now it does. I mean, well, it doesn't still. It kind of exists, but they call it personal radio services, and that's a different issue altogether. We're going to be tackling that in our comments to the FCC on this. This is an issue that REC will be taking on. My opinion still remains that this could have been avoided at the legislative level if the ARRL, the American Radio Relay League, was not asleep at the switch. I'm sorry, but I am putting a little bit of this on the ARRL. They should have been watching for this. And I know, and I can understand that this was buried in a bunch of legislation. But they could have been watching for this. And so in the regulatory fees, where there's the structure of where we've had this cost-based structure for quite a while now. That's Section 159 of the Communications Act. Amateur radio has a specific exclusion. No specific exclusion was written in 158 for application fees. So my question is, where was the ARRL in all this? Did they look away because they thought this was a broadcast proceeding? I don't know. Anyway, the issue is a proposed $50 fee on all applications in the personal radio services. That includes amateur radio, and that would include any new licenses, any upgrades, renewals, vanity call sign requests, copies of duplicate licenses to be sent out. These would all fall into that $50 under the FCC's proposal. The question that runs through our minds here, and keeping in mind of REC's experience for the past couple decades as being a major database and aggregator for FCC data products, and understanding the filing systems, in this case ULS, and looking at the applications that go through ULS, also understanding the volunteer examiner system, and how I have seen firsthand the process of how the volunteer examiner system works on the back end. You know, if you are going down for an amateur radio test and you pass, you know, it used to be back in my days, you know, all the paperwork would be filled out. You filled out a paper 610, you put in all your information on there, and then the VE would do their information, and then it would go in an envelope to the VEC, who would then process it and then send it to the FCC. Well, with ULS and with the advances that have happened in ULS, it's actually fairly simple now. It's now at a point where the VE session, they put it into a computer, it goes to the VEC, which then analyzes it, does whatever they do, and then they make that into a batch file, a batch pipe delimited file that goes to ULS, and then the FCC processes it. On the FCC's end, we've determined that 98% of the time, the applications do not get offline for any reason. They go right through. Systematic call sign is assigned, and sequential call sign is assigned, and bam, it's out and granted. A large majority of amateur radio applications are not touched by human hands, and you know, and I'm having a very hard time on these types of applications justifying a $50 fee. REC is going to come back in with a proposal to say, look, we should be rewarding people for taking their time to go through what is really the FCC's best educational program that they have that's available to the general public, and that is the amateur radio syllabus. Going through the 3 amateur radio tests and all the studying that leads up to that is a very basic foundation of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The FCC should be supporting this. So, REC's position is very simple. New license, upgrades, there should be no fee, because in those cases 99% of those go through without any hand holding. The remainder of the application types, renewals, yeah, I'm good with a $50 application fee on a renewal. That's, you know, $50 every 10 years. I'm good with that. I'm also good with vanity call sign requests. Any kind of modification like that. The only thing that the FCC will not propose on is administrative updates, such as address changes. That's logical. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get another message out on REC just to advise that. Yeah. See, there I am talking, and so we can talk about. I want to get on and talk about NCE here in just a moment, but I want to make sure that we get people on here. So bear with me here, and yeah, we will be talking about NCE and possible LPFM windows. Let's get one over to the LPFM group. Actually, let's put one on Solidarity. Thank you for your patience, everyone here. All right, and let's stick one over on the LPFM group. This is live and direct. You are just getting this like totally live and direct, and I know what you're all saying to yourself. Boring. I am so sorry. And again, one of these days we will get back onto a regular schedule. We'll get back onto a regular schedule for these live streams, and we shall find our way on there. And right now, for what looks like the one person who just still happens to be hanging out with me here, thank you. As we get this together, we're gonna do a better job at getting back on schedule for these things. Now that it's starting to cool down, we're not having to run excessive fans and air conditioners and such like that. Anybody who has called me up here during the summertime when we have the air conditioners and fans going up here, you know, the big question I get is like, are you in a subway station or something? You know, it sounds like you're in a tube station or something like that. And, you know, I'm gonna be in the background going, "Mind the gap, mind the gap." Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's see if anybody else gathers on here. But we are going to talk about the upcoming latest news that's on NCE Radio. Now, the FCC did come out with the release of something that I announced was going to be coming out a couple weeks ago, which is a public notice to get comments on a 10 application limit for the upcoming NCE window. Now, the FCC did acknowledge, finally, for the first time in writing in a public document, that there definitely will be an NCE window coming up. The date has yet to be announced. They've also validated the question of whether this was going to be a reserved band window, meaning the 88.1 to 91.9 frequencies available, you know, mostly nationwide, or if this was going to be like the 2010 window, where there were certain allotments in the commercial band that were set aside for non-commercial, and this window was to take care, and the window was to take care of those allotments. Many of those are tribal allotments that are set aside because they're in very rural, deep rural places and such. And it's anywhere where, because of major cities and such, that they would want a part of, Oh, sorry. I just got side railed by comment that came in, actually private comment, but it's kind of relevant because it came from it's about WAMU, which is the American University Public Radio Station in Washington D.C. They have a satellite station out here in Ocean City, Maryland, WRAU 188.3. Apparently, earlier this year, Delaware Public Radio was going to buy out WRAU and add it to the Delaware Public Radio Network. And I just got this release here that came out 5 days ago that said that WRAU that they're backing out of the sale, and that WRAU was going to stay with WAMU. And actually, I find that as really good news, but at the same time, I'm worried sick. Because I don't know the original the original justification, the original idea of why they wanted to drop, why they wanted to sell WRAU. I see why. Currently, the WRAU audience makes up just about 2% of the weekly broadcast audience. But the support of WRAU consumes WAMU resources and could be better deployed. Yeah. What I don't want to see happen, what I don't want to see happen. And now that I see this, I am scared. I am scared that this may fall to EMF. That is a fantastic facility. Beautiful coverage on 88.3. It's the NPR station that I listen to, because our existing station, our existing NPRs here on Delmarva are horrible, because it's music all day, dynamic talk like in the drives, and that's it. I liked WRAU, WAMU because of their constant talk content, and also too because they have a lot of local DC stuff on there that interests me, and because of how horrible wireless services out here, you can barely get 3G in a lot of places out here. Listening online is not always the best thing to do, especially when you're mobile. Got to have the radio. This is the reason why we need radio. Bill asks, will the non-com window precede the LPFM window? Yes, it will. And that was actually at my request. When there was discussion about this in staff, the original thought was to do the LPFM window first, get it out of the way, then do the non-com window. And I said, look, we have these proposals that are out there right now that are going, we've got proposals out there that are going to lighten the load on the Channel 6 issue. Because we were going, at the time that we were going with this, the REC's proposal was at the time, while this was all going on, was that, LPFMs should have the same exact rule as translators for protecting Channel 6. If they can do a if they can do a contour study, or if they can get a letter of consent from the concurrence from the Channel 6 station, then they should be allowed to, they should be allowed to do that. Now, of course, the FCC turned around, surprised us, and put in a circulation draft. Hey, we're just going to drop all Channel 6 restrictions. And then, of course, that was great until the very last day when WPVI in Philadelphia and all the other Channel 6 stations got pissed off at the FCC. And now all of a sudden, we are back with what was originally, we're back with Channel 6 restrictions. But we did get what REC asked for, which was our original request, which was the fair request, keeping in mind that I had no way of knowing that the FCC was even thinking about dropping all Channel 6 restrictions. And we got the rule put in there that basically states that if you want to use if you want to go on a reserve band channel as an LPFM, and you do not meet the minimum distance separations in 73825 for based on your channel and whether the TV station's an LPTV or a full power TV station, you get you can use the contour study like the translators do, the simple contour study. If you can show no overlap, no population in the overlap, unlike full service, there's no 3,000 allowance, and you notify the station. You have to notify the station. They don't have to approve of it, but you do have to notify the TV station that's affected under that method. Or the third method is to go to the TV station, get concurrence from them, get a statement from them, and then you don't have to do the contour study or anything else. You can just do it. I mean, you can basically get a waiver from the TV station. So those were the arrangements that were made for doing that. So bottom line is this, is we were predicting that there was going to be more reserve band availability for LP/FM stations. We're also looking at the nature of Channel 6 after July of next year, when all the analog LPTV is supposed to sunset and shut down. The question is, how many of these LPTV stations, especially the ones that are currently Franken FMs, if they're not allowed to Franken FM anymore, are they going to stay around as a digital TV station? And if so, are they going to stay on Channel 6? So these are the questions that are coming up. And so with the uncertainty with the opportunity but still uncertainty of what's going to be happening down below 92, what I did not want to see happen was I did not want to see a whole bunch of LP/FM station applications stack themselves into the reserve band to just turn around and have them be displaced by the full service window. And so, and that's what the FCC originally wanted to do. And I was, and I said, look, it makes sense to do it the other way around. Why should we be displacing LPFMs that just applied, and now we're coming in a year later with a full service window? Makes no sense. So yeah, we got them to change that. And so the NCE full service window will be coming up next. And my prediction right now is going to be early, actually, probably around April or May of next year is when that window is going to take place. And then, of course, LPFM probably in 2022 sometime. So the big question is what kind of availability, excuse me, or what kind of availability should we be expecting in a NCE window? Well, here's the map. This map, hold on. Now this map, I'm going to tell you about this map because there's some caveats about this map that you need to know about. Now this is based on September data. Now this is a very high level look. We are looking at this at every 6 minutes of latitude and longitude across the country. So for every 1 degree square of latitude longitude in this country, there's 100 points being checked on this. We are running more granular tests, but the ultra super granular test that looks at this at on a 1 minute on a 1 minute by 1 minute granularity or resolution is going to take about a week to a week and a half to complete. So yeah, that's pretty huge. But the areas that are in red are areas where there's no chance. You cannot place a transmitter in there, really, because all those areas are either on all 20 channels are either inside the 40 dB interfering contour of an existing station on co-channel, inside the 54 dBu interfering contour of a first adjacent, inside the 60 dB protected contour of a second or third adjacent station, or in some cases for IF channels, intermediate frequency, and for first, second, and third adjacent for stations on 91.5, 7, and 9. You don't meet the 73207 minimum distance spacing requirements. So that's the map of where things are not available. The black dots represent most but not all of the 100 major markets across the country. So pretty much if you're in a major market, you can pretty much, chances don't look good. And, because we're getting a lot of requests, a lot of people wanting to check on availability and such. Now, even in an unshaded area, keep in mind a couple caveats of the unshaded areas on this map. First of all, if you're very close to an area where that is red, then yeah, you may not be able to get it either, because it's all based on contours. It's not distance separation. It's all contours. So, and even in the unshaded areas, you still have to meet all of the contour requirements. So some channels may be available. There may be a channel available where you're at, but it may not be more than like a couple 100 watts. So, obviously more needs to be looked at, but basically the bottom line is that for the areas that are in red, and once we go to the more granular maps, the areas that still remain in red will be the areas where you probably are not going to have any luck finding anything. So that's really the nature of that map. Now, the other thing that you got to take into consideration in the unshaded areas is going to be the channel 6. There's channel 6 creeping our ugly head up there. Let's see, a very tiny window in New Jersey, hoping that available space in Pennsylvania includes Lancaster. In Jersey. Yeah, I mean, if there's very tiny space, the one thing to take into consideration too is there enough space there? A couple of issues that you got to deal with, first of all, and this is going to lead us to our next subject here. For both Pennsylvania and for New Jersey, is that yeah, there may be space there, but is there enough space? Because you got to remember one thing about NCE, it's very different from translators, and it's very different from LPFM. See, in translators and LPFM, the way that the services are designed, you are expected to protect, your interference contour is expected to protect the incumbent station. For full service stations in LP and versus LPFM, there's even a 20-kilometer buffer zone that's added to there based on station class. And but NCE rules are different, because in NCE rules you are not only required to protect, but you're also expected to be protected. This means that your interfering contour can't cross their protected contour, which is the same for translators and in theory LPFM, but at the same time their interfering contour cannot cross your protected contour. That is unique for the full services, both for NCE, the way that normal distance separation in commercial FM is done, and also the way that the contour overlap exemption in commercial radio 73215 is done. So yeah, the interference protections have to go both ways. Now, the other thing that you're going to be dealing with, especially in New Jersey, upstate New York, Pennsylvania, a couple places down south, even in Montana and Kansas, is channel 6. Now, unlike LPFM and translators, the full service NCE is only required to protect 10 TV stations that are currently on channel 6. Here they are. Now, the way that NCE stations protect channel 6, it is kind of a, you kind of take the process that we just talked about for translators, where there's a contour overlap, and you put it on some steroids. There is we have so you'll have an interfering contour from your proposed facility, and the service contour from the protected TV station. Now, the protected TV stations, even though they're all digital now, the rules that were written were based on analog theory. And this is one of the reasons why I felt that the rules needed to go away. But we're using rules based on 30-year-old receiver technology. And a part of that is that you know, there cannot be a interference overlap between your contour and the TV station. And there's a chart that's based on the channel, based on the power, that determines the size of your contour. And so bottom line is that you know that you're going to have issues if you're near channel 6. Now, in the full service, you're allowed some overlap in interference. You are allowed normally you're allowed to have up to 3,000 people in that overlap between the 47 dB contour of the TV station and whatever your calculated interfering contour is from your station. If you agree to install filters on the back of people's over-the-air TV sets, then you can gain more population in that interfering area. There's also some complex rules if you decide to go vertical only. Discussion on antennas is due, because there are some things you need to know. If you're considering NCE, there are some things you need to know about antennas. But let's finish up with the. So with channel 6, you know, you've got those restrictions. You can also work with the TV station. But here's the key thing, is you're only required to protect those 10 TV stations. If you are, for full service, only those 10 need to be protected. None of the LPTV stations need to be protected. Just those. Antennas really quickly. Everything you know about translators and even LPFM, you're going to have to throw it out the door, because it's totally different rules in the translator, I mean in the full service world. Your translator type antennas like the Scala CL FM and CA2s and stuff like that, they can't normally be used in the NCE, because there is a requirement that states that the design of the antenna must be done in a way where the differences in the field value, the amount of power going out in a particular direction, cannot exceed 2 dB difference within 10 degrees. So, you know, so instead of, like, for example, right now you've got these antennas with these really you know, with these really narrow beam widths, like the CLFM, which will come down here and then maybe have a tiny little tail on the back and then nothing to the back of the antenna. You can't do that in NCE full service. Instead, your antenna is not going to be able to go like 2 dB, 2 dB, 2 dB, and then maybe on the other end you're going to be full. Now, there's another part of this too. Is that from the front of your antenna, the maximum peak of your antenna to the most attenuated point, the null on your antenna, cannot be more than 15 dB, which is basically like a 0.178 field value if you do that kind of engineering. So yeah, you can only go down to a 0.178 field value on your antenna, which for example, for a kilowatt, that means 79 watts in no, not 79. That's not right. Let's see, what am I looking at here? 32. Actually, that's right. 32. If on a 1 kilowatt antenna, the lowest you can go in any direction is 32 watts. And like I said, the current, you know, like I said, you still have those restrictions. With the exception of the channel 6 issue we talked about, and Bill's also talking about it now in the chat, thank you. Vertical antennas are not normally allowed in the full services with the channel 6 exemption. You are required to have at least a horizontal aspect to your antenna. So your antenna can be horizontally polarized, it can be circularly polarized, it can be elliptically polarized, it can be vertical, horizontal, cross polarized. That's the way they used to do it many years ago, where you had 2 separate antennas. And in those cases, any case where you're using separate antennas like that, the horizontal power must exceed the vertical power. Bottom line is you cannot run a Norwalk Dominator, a Comet 5/8 wave antenna, or any of the cheap stuff that we have for NCE. I mean for LPFM that we're allowed to do in LPFM. You're going to have to get at least, and you know, for a 250 to 500 watt station, a 2-bay Nikon BKG 77 or 88 or Shively 6812 2-bay set would work just fine, as long as you're able to go non-directional. Now, if you do go directional, and you have to go directional, there's a lot of issues that you've got to go through. You've got to get a proof of performance. You've got to get a certification from a licensed surveyor that the antenna was installed correctly and such. So there's some additional issues with that. For those, you know, try to get yourself into a non-directional situation if you can. I know in some areas where you're trying to squeeze, you may have to go directional, but with directional comes costs, and those need to be considered in. And like I said, it is going to be a lot more complex than translators and LPFM. Let's talk about, if there's any questions, by the way, feel free to put them in the chat. Any comments or questions, feel free to put them in the chat on the NCE thing. And we'll take them up near the end here. We're also going to release another new map today. This is the first time anybody is seeing this. I haven't even posted this one on my personal Facebook yet. And this one is for LPFM. This is the same theory as the NCE mapping. Every 6 minutes across the country, granularity. Now, what this map is showing is that in red, the areas that are in red are areas where no LPFM channels are available based on distance separations. The areas that are in blue are areas where there may be potential stations, but a second adjacent channel waiver would be required. And based on how strong the short space second adjacent channel stations come in at the location of where the that's being proposed, availability may or may not be there. You know, here in Riverton, right where we're at here, we're sitting on it. We're sitting in the blue area here, because you know, we do have I do have several channels available to me here, but they're all blue. But they're all second adjacent channels, and my average field strength here, I think my strongest station comes in at 64 dB or 65 dB, somewhere right around there. I do have a channel available in the reserve band that would give me a second adjacent of around, I think, 78 dB, which would actually help a little bit. And of course, in that case, I would need a I'd need to figure out what the channel 6 is doing over here. We have the one that we worry about is the Salisbury channel 6 in LPTV. We don't have KPVI, WPVI up in Philadelphia to contend with. But anyway, I just wanted to show you the map. The same metro markets are outlined on there in black dots. These maps will be posted on Facebook in a little bit after we're done with this call, and then we can go from there. But there you go. For those who are looking into LPFM, hopefully in 2022. This is the way it looks right now. So basically, Los Angeles, the Bay Area, is pretty much down with the count. Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins, that area, area around the Springs, Phoenix area, looks good in. Doesn't look good in North Phoenix. Looks like Scottsdale, Tempe. There is some availability in Tempe, I know that. Looks like there's availability once you get out to Mesa and down towards Chandler and Gilbert. The Vegas area, the Vegas Valley area doesn't look too good there, right in the heart of the area there. Portland is pretty much booked up, which we would expect. Seattle. Going further east, you've got the Metroplex, Houston, San Antonio and Austin that look like they're pretty booked up. At least there's still opportunities in Florida, but just not in the areas where I'm getting all the requests from, which is Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Orlando. That seems to be where everybody wants to put a station, but nothing can be put there. And then, of course, the Chicago area is pretty much out of the running. And then you got the big block, you got the big northeastern red, pretty much going all the way from DC to Boston, right there. So, and as you can see, but down in our area, down here, and yeah, there's availability. So that's the map as of right now. We'll publish more of these as we get closer to the window. But this kind of gives you an idea. If you know if you know another organization that's considering wanting to get an LPFM station in 2022 in the window, these are the parameters. This is what the spectrum currently looks like. The FCC is not planning on any major filing windows for which any new allocations will be added to here. We have not heard anything on when the FCC is going to come back with Auction 106 for the full service stations. But keep in mind that all those full service reserved allotments for the auction are already in this map. They're already taken into consideration on this map. But keeping in mind too that once those auctions are won, the winner of the auction could slightly move the station and do a minor change, and that could vary this map. Otherwise, other than any other applications that are filed either by translators, full service, or LPFMs, or even NCEs. Now, of course, this map could slightly vary, although very unlikely that there would be a lot of movement on this map after the NCE window. Because, I mean, I can go back and check and see what areas here are available only in the NCE band and not in the upper band. I don't think there are any, but that's something we can look at. So anyway, that is the map for LPFM. And questions coming up here. Whoops. Questions coming up. What about state-only maps? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about with getting the more granular maps. In the past, what we've done is we've done regional maps where maybe it's like 3 or 4, several states together. And for the last window, I remember publishing a book of maps, literally. And yeah, I mean, it got down to like one for each state, or in some states, kind of like remember the old Rand McNally road atlases and how they had things divided up where, Southern California was 2 pages, Northern California was 2 pages, and maybe they had like 2 pages that was Arizona and New Mexico and such. That's kind of the idea of what we have there. What about New York? As usual, I mean, we go back and we look at the maps. First, the NCE map. You can see it's hard to see, but there may be some small opportunity, possibly on Eastern Long Island, some little areas of Eastern Long Island, but that's about it. You can pretty much forget about anything in the reserve band anywhere near New York City. What about LP? LP, yeah, Eastern Long Island. There'll be some second adjacent out there, but yeah, it looks good. I mean, if you're looking in like Sag Harbor and areas like that out there, yeah, you might be able to do it. But Nassau County, Suffolk County, into Queens and Brooklyn, forget it. Basically, forget it, and we'll just have to see how all that goes. Just got a very interesting group invite today. This came from my friend Ricky, who is at AIR.com, AIIR.com. They are the ones that are providing REC Networks, specifically J1 and Delmarva FM, with our mobile app, our very successful mobile app that a lot of our listeners have transformed to. We were originally on Nobex, which had a whole bunch of those annoying gaming ads that you see the Cinnamon Toast Ken videos about, apparently, I guess he's putting together a new application a new program called ShowHost. And this is what their website says. Whether you are a team of 5 or a team of 1, putting a radio show or podcast together can be tricky. Your ideas are spread across emails, the Notes app on your phone, and scraps of paper around the studio. Planning the next show becomes a pain. Not everyone has access to the same stuff. Who did what? When? Where? Why can't I never find anything? We think there's a better way to prepare a show. Show host brings everything together in one place. Forget bits of paper and that nobody can see or weird uses for spreadsheets. You'll have the tools and information available that you need without any hassle. Coming soon. The website is showhost.co. That's showhost.co. Something worth checking out. I still need to do a talk on the Atmos weather software, which is available for free of charge for NCE stations and for LPFMs. And we're currently using it right now on REC Delmarva FM. You can hear it on the air live at the times that we break for weather. And that is nearly about it. If there's any questions, any comments, anything, we can go ahead and put it in the chat. We still have some things to talk about where it comes to the NCE. One of the things that I do want to talk about on a future chat is the point system, the selection process. Understanding the points and understanding the what's called the 307B priorities. Question is, I'm wondering if that would work with Simian. Not sure. Oh, the weather app? What the weather app, let me just give you a brief rundown of the weather app. I don't know, can I add my desktop on here very easily? Because it is on this desktop. Bear with me here. I'm using OBS. We use OBS Studio. So let's see. I would think that would be. Would that be window capture? Yeah. Let's try this as a window capture. Alright. Whoops. Okay, it's not giving me the option that I want. Oh, probably because it's not showing up. You want to keep them. No, I don't. Okay, there we are. We're back again. We were back again. Now we're gone again. There we are. We're back. And we're gone. Okay. Alright, hang on here. Poof! There we are. We're back again. Now, the weather application is not a mobile app. It's not like that at all. What it is, it's a radio station app that is internal within the broadcast station. And what this is it's a text-to-speech software that will and what it does is it picks up the weather forecast off of an API, and then it will turn around and generate that into it'll turn around and generate that into a text to speech that could then be I didn't want to do that into a text to speech that could then be rebroadcast. That loads up into your automation and then is rebroadcast here. Let's see if I can. Okay, let me see if I can do this now. Hang on here. Alright, we're going to go properties and then window capture. And let's see. There it is. Does that come up? Yay. Okay. Now let's see if it's going to let me add it. And poof. There it is. Okay. Alright, this is Atmos. And I'm not sure if I can blow this thing up. Oh, I can. Okay, cool. And what Atmos does is that it will, it's an application that installs on the desktop, and you got to leave it on a computer that runs 24/7. And then what it does is once an hour, this application is going to go out to an API, get the weather data, and then using text to speech, it's going to generate a message. And the message is basically the weather message is the one that you're seeing right up there. You know, patchy fog will affect the area with late tonight and into tomorrow morning. Here's the weather for western Wicomico County on Delmarva FM for Tuesday, the 20th day of October. I'm Erica Walters, you know, and this will update once an hour. And then what happens is when it does update, it's going to send the WAV file to the Y drive with the in the folder, you know, in the directory of Atmos. So Y/Atmos. The Y drive from this computer is the Rivendell box. So it writes it to the Rivendell box, and what we do is in Rivendell we have a Dropbox set up, so that way as soon as it writes it to that directory, and there's the comment, you know, there's the format for the file name, so it's Atmos_hour minute.wave. So after you drop the after it drops it in there, then Rivendell will import it and make it into a cart. And it'll make it into a cart that, you know, then is picked up by the automation in during that process. So for NCEs, we've had some discussion regarding the business plan for NCEs. I'm not going to discuss too much of that for confidentiality reasons, but right now what we're getting delivered here is we're just getting a generic message about the company, about Summit Technologies company and the Atmos software. But if you want to hear it, excuse me, if you want to hear it, it comes on. It's on recdelmarvafm.com. So if you go to delmarvafm.org and then listen to the station from there, download the J1 radio app from Google, from the Google App Store, from the Apple Store, and one of the channels on there is Delmarva FM. Even if you hate Japanese popular music, and I can understand why, you know, there is one English language channel that's basically it's Pacifica talk during the day, and it's just mainstream 70s 80s at night. And interspersed in there are the weather reports, and you can so you'll be able to pick up the weather from there, and you can hear it for out here. So that's that's a neat little tool. It doesn't replace EAS. It's just a neat little way to add weather reports. Now, in commercial stations, they are doing barter. So if you have a commercial station, you know, you want it, and what they'll do is they'll let you have it, and the condition, of course, is if you use it, they're gonna barter a commercial before it in the commercial world. So anyway, again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in. Otherwise, I'm going to have to call it here. So, last call for alcohol on this one. And let's see where we go with this. Seems to be a very quiet day. Again, I want to make sure that I give out better notice the next time on these. But we're releasing those maps today. And again, those maps will be up here on Facebook here in just a little bit. But I just wanted to release those. Again, also too, make sure that you're following the REC Network's Facebook page. That's REC. That's facebook.com/RECNET. And we'll just have to see where it goes. All right, with that, I think we're going to call it. Everybody, take care. Please stay safe. It's crazy out there right now. Everybody, please stay safe. We'll be back soon with another call like this. More information to follow. And hopefully, and again, you know, next time we do this, come with your questions. I love questions in the chat. I love being derailed by the chat. So let's do it. Everyone take care, stay safe, and please vote. I don't care who you vote for right now. Just go get out and vote. We need to, you know, you need to be heard. And that's the way to be heard. Just get out and vote. Take care, everyone.